Which of the 10 Commandments would you say is the most difficult to keep? I did a survey of the members of our confirmation class last January when we were studying Martin Luther's explanation of the 10 Commandments. You know which commandment they said was the most difficult to observe? Number 3, the Sabbath commandment. The vote was close to unanimous in our confirmation class. I guess it shouldn't be a surprise to me that rest is not high up on the list of priorities for middle school students. The most familiar version of the Sabbath commandment can be found in Exodus 20. Today, we get the other version from Deuteronomy chapter 5. Observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy as the Lord your God commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. In the Jewish tradition, the Sabbath observance begins on Friday at sundown and ends on Saturday at sundown. Since the earliest Christians were Jews, they observed both the Jewish day of rest on Saturday and celebrated the Lord's Day, the day of the risen Christ, on Sunday. By the year AD 100, more Christians were Gentiles than Jews. So it was not long in Christian practice before the Jewish Sabbath no longer functioned religiously. To meet one another in the risen Christ, Christians came together on the first day of the week, not the seventh. And both then and now, for many Christians, the first day was not so much a day of rest or a vacation day. When Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire under Constantine, it was decreed that some occupations, mostly those dealing with trade and commerce, would need to keep Sunday as a day of rest. By the time of the Protestant Reformation, John Calvin in Geneva sought to re-establish stricter regulations about Sabbath as applicable to Sunday. Lutherans were always less rule-oriented when it came to these issues because of our emphasis on the Christian freedom that we have in Christ Jesus. But the strong Calvinist influence in the early colonies of what became the United States led to an American sense of Sunday as Sabbath. Still today, there are places where one cannot purchase alcohol on Sunday. I was visiting with my parents in Florida this week, and my mother told me that when she was growing up, she couldn't play with paper dolls on Sunday. Some adults can remember a time when no Little League would think of practicing or playing games on Sunday afternoon. Many of us remember blue laws that prohibited certain activities on Sunday. Even during the 1980s, when I was in seminary, the women in my fieldwork congregations fussed about not being able to purchase necessary pantyhose at the convenience stores on Sunday mornings. You see, the blue laws said socks and stockings were not necessities. They actually draped a cloth across the items in the 7-Eleven that were not necessities. Those women beg to differ. So, are we supposed to keep the Sabbath or not? Deuteronomy makes it clear that the Sabbath is a gift to humanity. Sabbath rest is not just for the people of God. It is not just for the faithful followers. Sabbath rest is for all, even slaves, even refugees, immigrants, and resident aliens, and even livestock. The cattle catch a break on Sunday or Saturday. The gift of Sabbath makes it clear that God's grace and provision are not limited to people of faith or people who believe the right way or trust the right things. Grace comes to all. Rest comes to all. The difference is that people of faith have the joy of knowing whom to thank for all the things they need from day to day. Now, what Jesus warns us about in the gospel reading today is that we shouldn't turn even the most liberating and refreshing religious practice into a life-destroying collection of petty rules. The Sabbath was made for humankind, not the other way around. Jesus does not reject Sabbath keeping, but defends its original life-giving meaning. Jesus does not downplay the importance of Sabbath keeping, but warns us not to turn it into an unnecessary rabbit trail of micromanagement. Brothers and sisters, that is not our problem now. We desperately need, as individuals and as a society, both time off from work and time out with God. Our problem is not the micromanagement of the Sabbath, but a failure to recognize its crucial value for our health and sanity. In our 24/7 world, we have become constantly and electronically wired to everything. Boundaries become blurred. The marketplace is everywhere and all the time. It's in your face, right on your computer screen. Google anticipates what you want to buy before you even decide to buy it. As Marjorie Thompson writes in her devotional work, Soul Feast, to rest in God is implicitly to critique a culture of constant production. To trust in God is to undermine a culture obsessed by control. Even to enjoy God is to play the fool in a culture that often takes itself too serious. Within the spirit of Christian freedom and with the constant help of God's grace, let me suggest a few practical choices to move us forward into reclaiming the blessed gift of Sabbath rest this morning. First, keep one day a week as sacrosanct as possible. Mine is usually Friday. Use it for real refreshment, not merely for catching up on chores and errands. Second, use bonus time that comes to you unexpectedly. An unexpected illness, snow day, waiting for an appointment, airport delays. To turn your mind toward God and pay attention to the gift of the moment. a small group for your spiritual nourishment or to learn more about the beauty of God's creation. Fourth, scatter short moments of relaxation and delight during your regular work days. My wife calls this taking a look out the window. Fifth, begin or end your day, each day, with 5 to 10 minutes of simple prayer for thanksgiving to God. Lingering in the holy lists of gratitude will make you more refreshed and less grumpy. Let me conclude by saying, please, please don't turn Sabbath rest into a spiritual form of achievement. That's not the point. Sabbath is God's gift of time for you. Sabbath is God's time of grace for you. Sabbath is majestically and freely expressed in the words of the poet, John Greenleaf Whittier. O Sabbath rest by Galilee, O calm of hills above, where Jesus knelt to share with thee the silence of eternity, interpreted by love. Drop thy still dews of quietness till all our striving cease. Take from our souls the strain and stress, and let our ordered lives confess